There is a common misconception that Windsor, Essex is a large hub for human trafficking due to our proximity and being a border city. In reality, it is not because we are a border city, it's because we are on the 401 corridor. Typically, you can traffic a female from Windsor to Toronto to Montreal very quickly and essentially with no checkpoints.
Getting help is very difficult. It's hard to reach out. Think about the last time you had to reach out for something, right? We have a lot of pride that can be involved. And so when someone reaches out for help, we really want to act quickly. We at Weekend, we have no wait list. We have no program caps. I'm not going to say, someone calls, Robin, I need your help. I'm not going to say I can see you in a month. It's like, okay, where can I meet you? So we do a lot of emergency meetings, case plannings, consultations at the hospital. Like we're not a crisis service, but we kind of feel like we need to respond as quickly as possible because we don't know what's going to pull that person backwards. And I feel very honored to do this work. I stumbled on it. I didn't know what it was before, but I would not choose to work with any other population or be part of any other team than the one at Weekend. The pulling back is very different from sex trafficking or labor trafficking. So sex trafficking, someone could be well into their recovery, established housing. They might be walking downtown and their pimp or trafficker finds them and pulls up beside them on the street corner and says, "Hey, I've been missing you. Get in the car." I'm going to get in the car because I know what they're capable of, the violence, that they know where my family lives. They may still have my pet. And so the sex trafficking can be pulled in based on proximity, based on if I chose to stay in the city. Versus labor trafficking, they often get pulled back in not with the same recruiter or trafficker, but without a work permit, without immigration status. I still need to support myself. I still need to pay for families' education, medication back home. So I may then find a job working for cash, and the farm owner exploits that.
As an organization, we give a lot of information, and our organization, we try to be the bridge between the migrant workers and the community. And we have our social medias. We do a lot of events for them, like we do health and information first to them. We do festivals. We do all kind of sport events, cultural events. We give them workshops, and we always encourage people, if something happened, come to us, come to the authorities, go forward if this situation like that is happening. And if some people are in those kind of situations, they can come to our place and we can direct to the right organization. We work with many organizations in the region, and we can help people to redirect it to the right organization that they're going to get the help that they needed.
Some of the safety pieces that we need to be mindful of is I don't know the threat against someone, whether it's sex trafficking or labor trafficking, so I have to allow victims to come forward when they're ready, right? If someone were to say, Robin, come with me right now, and the threat against me was a younger sibling, I would be angry that you put myself and a family member at risk. So it's very hard as service providers to wait for someone to be ready. It's always important to start where they're at. I may think addiction treatment is a priority, but they may want to sleep. They may want to reconnect with family. And so we very much stay focused on what does the survivor want? Where do they want to go? Do they want to stay in Ontario, or do they want to get as far away from here and go see their aunt in BC? We'll help them get there. The other piece is safety for us as staff, right? When I started this, I was like, I'll go to that motel. It's not safe to do so. It's not safe to put myself, my family, my team at risk to help a survivor. And so we rely on community partners. We do a lot of presentations and outreach to spread the word so that we have ambassadors across the city who will get that gut reaction when they see something that feels wrong. And hopefully they can reach out or let the victim know there's help. What's happening is not okay. And if you need to, call Bianca. Go find Robin. She's at, downtown across from the hotel at 443 Olette. Go find them. They might be able to help you.
So, human trafficking in general is misidentified because if you do a quick Google search of what is human trafficking, typically you're going to see images with a female with a hand over their mouth, possibly some shackles, maybe a cage, and oftentimes this does happen. However, we do not see this as the typical point of entry. A lot of times we see an individual trafficked from loved ones, from somebody that they trust, from family members, from recruiters. That trafficker is trying to fill that void. So they likely have an idea that that individual is lacking some factor or some variable that brings them stability, and therefore they are going to use that to their advantage.
And so, as a result, we have to provide a place for people to live. We have to provide sustainable income. We have to provide the resources that will keep them safe and also support uh, related to functioning and their trauma reactions, their ability to go to the store and feel safe. One of the hardest things that happen is when your ability to make decisions is taken away from you. Just going shopping and buying a box of cereal can become overwhelming. So there are lots of life skills that are required too. So trauma reactions are very common when somebody has been trafficked. So the important thing to remember is that if you're having those traumatic memories or reactions, that it's a message to process them rather than run away from them. It's an opportunity to learn skills to manage those reactions, and also an opportunity to talk and process those traumatic events so that they don't plague you for the rest of your life. We can learn ways to manage trauma.
A lot of times we see this narrative that most of the people who are trafficked come from a very low socioeconomic status, are typically involved in child welfare systems, and have experienced some pretty horrific things in our community. However, that is not always the case. One story in particular that really affected myself was a young woman who disclosed to us that she engaged in a relationship with a male, and everything seemed to be a normal boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. Slowly, in the grooming process, he started to pull away that love, which naturally, as a young female, a lot of individuals try to kind of regain that connection, and maintain the relationship the best that they can. When that happened, she was forced into doing sex acts to make small amounts of money to possibly cover rent or some basic needs. What really drove home for me was when the individual disclosed that she was from a very similar community that I grew up in.
The first thing we need to do is take care of the girls, the victims' basic necessities, and get them medical care and food and anything else they might need, first of all. And that's done first and foremost before we could take a statement from them. One story I think that'll illustrate what goes on that's not reported is that on one occasion we're doing a proactive project. We'd make the date and we'd go see them in what they refer to as an in-call setting. So the sex trade worker's at a hotel room. We make a date for an in-call date with them, and we show up and talk to them and try to help them as best we can. So on this one occasion, I made the in-call date with the girl, and we showed up at the door. She let us in. She talked to us. She was cooperative. She was from Quebec, and she was in Windsor on her own accord, working independently as a sex trade worker. So we tried to educate her on some of the dangers of being in that situation. You're by yourself, you're in a strange city, and you have no way to protect yourself. At first she was apprehensive about speaking to us, but I told her absolutely I'm not writing this down. Like I just want to know, like what have you been through? And she said, well, last week I had a guy make a date with me at this room, and he was she negotiated a date where he was going to pay $50 for oral sex for her to perform on him. So he showed up and he sexually assaulted her anally, penetrated her anally sexually assaulted her and completely forced himself on her. And he took her phone and her laptop and didn't pay her any money and left. And my next question was, did you think about calling the police? She's like, absolutely not. She's like, I don't want to talk to the police. And I tried as best I could to convince her, like, it's not too late. You could still provide us all this information now, and we could arrest him. We could get you your things back. And she would not complain. She wanted no part of the legal system. How you remedy that situation, I'm not sure. Like, this is somebody she's not being trafficked, but she was the victim of a very serious sexual assault. But because of the business she was in, she doesn't feel comfortable complaining to the police.
We've worked very hard in the Windsor community to develop protocols with different agencies where we could call Hiatus House. We can call Ontario Works and say, I have a person, we need to do this quickly. And sometimes it can avoid long wait times or some of that red tape that pushes people away. One of the big ones is that lack of trust, right? I have already put trust in someone who broke it, who's everything they promised never happened. So building of that trust, long wait times, right? When a survivor comes forward and says, I want to go to addiction treatment, that has to happen very quickly. In 6 weeks, they might be pulled back. One of the main goals is to do no harm. And so trauma is very deep. Trauma can connect with childhood abuse, childhood violence, adult, like it spans the whole life. And so supporting people where they're at with non-judgment, with kindness, with autonomy, independence, and sitting with them in that discomfort, in those emotions, in those stories that are really hard to tell, is healing in and of itself. We take our lead from the client. Trauma is different for everybody. Trauma is different for each person who's been sex trafficked, each survivor of labor trafficking. And so it's very much based on what does that individual think that they need? What is going to be helpful now? And what seeds do we want to plant so that they can heal and regain or rebuild their life in whatever aspect they want, because it's their plan, not mine. I will get text messages. Oh, my friend told me to reach out with you. People will message me on WhatsApp because I work with a lot of migrant workers. People will show up at the LAW office and say, I need to talk to Robin. So word of mouth is very big. And community providers, right? They may not trust me, but they may have a nurse practitioner that they trust, or a teacher, or a coach, or a neighbor. And so referrals literally come from everywhere. Brochures have started to be a thing of the past, only because if I'm experiencing sex trafficking and my trafficker finds a flyer or a business card on me, I'm going to be hurt. Physically hurt. I might have to do more work or work that I don't want to do. And so we have kind of stepped away from, I have business cards that people are welcome to take. We have pens, but I never want to put someone at risk. So we have flyers up at agencies. There's often information on the back of like bathroom stalls if you need help. Canada has a national hotline. So if you were to Google Human Trafficking Help Canada, it would bring this website that will help you navigate wherever your home is, wherever you are, who in that community is the human trafficking experts and how to access them.
So when we do see an individual who works through that process, and, oftentimes it is an individual who, is maintaining housing and possibly has completed school or possibly has regained access to their children or gained supports from their family again. It is incredibly fulfilling to see how resilient clients are and how impactful it can be to do work like this.